And it takes about 6 seconds before that one comes on and tells them, but we're being recorded now as we speak.
All right.
So welcome to everybody. There we are. So yes, thank you for everybody who is here.
Howdy from Dallas.
Looking forward to a very good night tonight. Let's see if we can read any of the comments. Looks like everything's working okay. My name is Jesse from Pewaukee. Hi, Jesse from Pewaukee. Hey, good to see y'all. Apparently everybody can hear us okay. We're good.
Yep.
Doing better now that I can walk again. Yeah, that's a help.
Hey, look at that. I got chats on my phone. I struggle to see that far to be able to read the chat. So if I pull it up on my phone, I can kind of glance down every now and then. So that will work for me. Just don't tell my eye doctor.
I offered my glasses, but he didn't take them.
So yeah, thank you for everybody who's here at the moment. I think between now and 6 o'clock, we've only got 10 minutes. We'll just have a little conversation. If you have questions or any thing that you'd like us to answer, we're certainly happy to do that. Thank you to Lawrence for telling us that you're seeing us and hearing us.
Yes, thanks, Larry. Good to see you.
We don't have a clue what we're doing here. So
as you can see, we're without Dean.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we start. But this is a different experience.
But hey, you got to the main camera.
I got to the right camera.
It's all good.
You're able to see us. We can't see you.
And you can hear us. All right, good. Good.
So yes, let's start off with just idle chatter. Tell us a few things, Dick, that we didn't know before.
Take it away, Dick.
Yeah, you got it to start with.
We've spent so much time talking. Now it's like, what were we going to talk about?
Yeah. Go ahead.
It's kind of nice just being here to talk. Feel kind of honored to be here. I don't know what to tell you right now. If somebody's got something they want to talk about, I'd be glad to. Throw something at me, John.
My phone? Well, we were talking earlier about kind of the evolution of pens and what was going on in the beginning as opposed to now. And I don't know, what was the first pen you ever turned?
First pen I ever turned was a 7mm straight job. That's about all there was.
And it was in beautiful gold because there was no such thing as
all there was.
The neat thing about them, one pen you could push together with your hands, and the next one you'd split something when you put it together.
With high quality control.
Yes, they were totally different. And then along came the European, which everybody called the Mont Blanc for a while until Mont Blanc resisted. That changed. And then the cigar pen came along. And that was pretty much it for a while. And I think the most odd one I ever had was there was similar to a European, a little thinner in size, but it had stepped tubes on it. And that was kind of weird. You had the step drill, and it didn't last long. I know I was using polyurethane glue to glue them in, and I'd have to put a rubber band around to keep the tube from pushing out with that when the glue expanded. Fun times. Well, you did quite a few of them too, Ed.
Yeah, I did a lot of that design. Thing with that was it was more of a challenge to turn than I was capable of at the time. So yeah, I did quite a few of them that didn't work out. One of the things, I don't know how much you knew about it, a lot of questions have come up over the years about the cigar pen. Who started the cigar pen? And I know it was started by a company called Woodcrafters of Oklahoma.
Yes. Tulsa. I can't think of the fellow's name. I stopped to see him, and he was basically getting close to the end. And when I stopped to see him, they told me he was at home. So I did go to his home and talk to him for a while. But he was really the one that started the cigar pen. And that was always a pretty good pen too, I thought.
Well, he wasn't around for very long though. He was a couple of years, and then he passed away. As I
Yeah, passed
understood
away.
it.
That's what I say. I saw him just before he passed away,
Okay.
and the only thing I disliked about the cigar pen, if someone had it in their pocket and sat down, it bent it. You know, my husband dropped this. Can you fix it? Yeah, yeah, he dropped it while he sat on it. But
Hey, Dean, nice to see you there. I saw you on my watch, but I can't multitask. You ought to know that by now. Everything is going fairly smoothly. We think we've got it somewhat under control. So, as usual, thank you for your brilliant setup. It's working pretty well. So.
We just need bigger words on the screen up there that we can see when we have to change.
Yeah, if we could, the one screen has got small words, but we'll get over it. Don't worry about it. Life is looking good. So we got 5 minutes. What's the 5-minute topic?
5 minutes? Oh, I don't know. What can you talk about in 5 minutes?
I live in Joliet.
There we go.
Been there all my life, all 86 years of it.
You know what's funny about that?
What's
if
that?
I can interject, is I owned a few of your books prior to knowing you, and it's funny that we're talking about eggs tonight because that was one of the things that I always liked was your eggs and your inlays. They've always just been something that I've wanted to do. And I remember going to a pen turners meeting one Saturday in Bolingbrook, and it was the start of that group. And I was told you were going to be there, and I didn't even know you lived in the area. And you were sitting in the front row as I'm doing my demo on casting. And at one point, I remember talking about how I built this casting rack to hold my blanks that I poured. And I made the mistake of saying that I bought a dowel rod for the handle. And at that point in time, we hadn't even spoken yet. And your hand goes up. And I'm a little intimidated. I'm like, yes, sir. And all you asked me was, John, do you own a lathe? And I knew right then and there that I'm going to have to turn a handle for something like that. I can't say that I bought a dowel rod. But thankfully, after that, we got to talking and you told me, geez, I live in Joliet, stop by anytime, which is 45 minutes from where I grew up. And I always said, had I known you lived 45 minutes from me, I'd have been beating your door down in the 80s when I got my driver's, I was like, hey, show me something here, teach me.
That's one of the things that you don't sometimes understand, how people that you want to be around are closer, but you have no way of knowing it.
Yep.
And that was nice. Of course, that started a conversation that just hasn't quit yet, has it?
No, not at all.
Now, Ed, I've known Ed for, remember when we were riding the dinosaurs?
You always had the bigger one, too.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, we met basically in 1995. I was 40-some years old and came into a craft fair in Chicago, at the time one of the larger ones, at the Stevens Convention Hall, which is the biggest one in Rosemont, which is right next to O'Hare, so sizable. And Dawn and I had the booth that was in aisle 26. And of course, we set up and so forth, and then started walking the show. Well, I had no idea who Dick Singh was in the first place, except that I had read all his books, and that was what got me into doing pen turning. So I'm walking down aisle 4, the third booth down, not that I remember it or anything. On the right-hand side is this completely black booth, and it said Father Singh. And I couldn't believe that it was really the guy that I had been reading the books about. So yeah, it was an opportunity for me to find out how little I knew about turning just by watching and looking at all the things in his booth. Even at that stage, Dick's work was just phenomenal, and I was making bottle stoppers that were maybe 2 inches tall and looked as I look at it now what we might call clunky. And I saw his work, and it was just so inspiring. He was everything there was done with precision and just tremendously good work. And I felt like I was intruding on his turf. So yeah, we got to know each other a little bit, and that's what started me on plastic because Dick said I don't like plastic. So we turned into very good friends, and it's amazing that it's that many years ago, and we remain very good friends. So with that, I think we've killed enough time to make it 6 o'clock. Go
One
ahead.
thing first,
Sure.
that Father Singh, when he came up, there were so many people that used to walk up and say, "Are you really a priest?"
Yep. Yeah.
Boy, if they really knew you.
Oh yes.
You have no idea. You have real meaning now.
But that Father Singh is stuck with me forever.
So once again, it's 6 o'clock, and we're happy to say hello to everybody who's here, and thank you all for coming. And as usual, we start by thanking the people who are involved in this. This week, both Mark and Dean have got other places that they needed to be. So you're back down to just John and I, but we are certainly happy and always glad to have Dick Singh as our guest. Dick is the father, in my mind, he's the father of pen turning. Now, I recognize that at the time there were a few other books. It's not that Dick wrote the only ones out there. But I'll tell you, when I was learning, I looked at the pictures. His books were basically, thank you, my assistant off to the side. His books were basically this type of book, a softback 8.5 by 11 book. But internally, everything was just glorious pictures.
Lots of illustration.
Wonderful, wonderful pictures. And so there was also some text underneath them, so you could follow it and figure out what the next step was supposed to be. Well, I was not much of a turner to begin with, so learning how to do pens was pretty good. Essentially, it was a great opportunity to get to have a hobby that kept my hands busy. So it's nice to be in the room with Dick again and have the opportunity to spend a half a day with him. And John is icing on the cake. So with that, I'm going to shut up because there's one thing I will tell you. Because Dean is traveling, he is on the call from time to time, thankfully. But he has set this thing all up so that any idiot can run it, and I qualify. So with any luck at all, we will be doing fine with it. But should there be glitches and glimmers during the course of this, sorry, I don't know what I'm doing, but we'll figure it out as we go along.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
Yep.
So with that, I want to welcome Dick, and hopefully all of you welcome Dick, and we're off to the races listening to how to turn eggs and how to turn egg-shaped kaleidoscopes, and just generally speaking, a little bit about turning. This day has been about turning, and we've had a good time. So hopefully you can join us. Dick, take it.
Okie doke. Probably I'll start with me. I was born in 1940 on a farm in Joliet.
No, that's not what we're on.
Didn't have a lot to do. I used to take and do a little carving and stuff at home. Closest kids to me lived a half a mile away, and they were not good kids to be with. So I really didn't have anybody other than my sisters. But anyway, I farmed until I was 19 when I got a job for General Motors. Uh, went there as a tool and die apprentice, and I think that kind of set a thing for me where precision became part of me. Uh, Even today, a lot of people kind of snicker when I walk out with a micrometer in my hand. But after carrying them since 1960, I don't see any reason why I should quit now. I have one friend that at the club, when he does demos, he brings the mic out and he says, "Well, I'm doing this on account of Dick Singh carries one, and I use it to hold the papers down on the lathe." I worked as a tool and die maker, and I was retired at age 51 on account of they closed the plant. So at age 51, what do you do? I didn't really know computers. They were just coming in good. And so I decided my hobby was turning. In fact, I bought my first lathe in 1965, paid a whole $10 for it. Got in trouble with my wife because I spent $10 on a piece of iron. But anyway, excuse me, that was my first wife. I don't have her anymore.
Got the lathe, don't have the wife.
Right. Yeah, the lathe is still in the family.
Jeez.
But anyway, I decided I would take and do some art shows, try and sell some of my stuff. And art shows led into people starting to ask me if I would do some demonstrating, which I did. And I was working demonstrating for a store in Racine, which half of it was wood turning, half of it was carving. Hank Bardenhagen was the man that really did the wood turning, but his partner had just come back from doing a book, and he said that the publisher was looking for someone to take and do a book on wood turning. And I said, well, I don't know how to do books. Any of my literature teachers in school would probably roll over in their grave. But anyway, I called the guy up and he says, yeah, let's do it. So I did. And fortunately, everything worked out. And once your name is on a book, it's etched in stone, whether you're good, bad, or indifferent. But once I was doing that, everything just kind of blossomed out for me. I've been over half the world and on someone else's nickel doing what I like to do. And yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. Always enjoyed my retirement. I have always liked simple turnings. In other words, when I first started turning, I'd go to a symposium, and what you would find in the gallery was nothing but bowls, 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 bowls. The next year, you might see a platter and maybe a candlestick or something. And then in time, you started to see hollow vessels. After the hollow vessels, you started to see piercings. Frank Sudol was one of the guys that really started turning and doing piercing. And Ben Poe picked up and really made it great after the other fellow died. But I never cared for that. I've not done any piercing. I've done about everything else, but it's just not my forte. I always just liked plain turning. I look at some of the stuff today that is carved and pierced and painted and all kinds of stuff, and I think it's neat, but it just has not been my forte. I just plain like turning. And I think a lot of my work showed that. Today I'm going to be turning eggs. and probably the story behind the eggs is well worth telling. The first anniversary that the wife and I had, a couple weeks before, she said she would like a wooden egg.
Second wife.
Well, we happened to have our anniversary on Easter Sunday that year, April 15th. I never forget my anniversary, tax day. But anyway, that morning I gave her, I believe, candy or something else and no egg. So lo and behold, I looked at her and she just kind of had a sad look on her face that she didn't get one, little disappointment. So as she's walking through the living room, she looked down by the sofa and there laid an egg. Like a little kid. Eee! I says, well, you better find the rest of them. And I'd hid 13 different eggs around the living room. And I had no idea the monster that I created. That year, she got all the eggs. The next year, we had mother-in-law, daughters, grandkids, you name it. I mean, I had a patch of eggs every year. That was 37 years ago. And today we have a collection of probably 350 to 400 eggs. Most of them are all different species of wood. As I was going around the country, I would look for different woods that I didn't have. And but like maple now, there's fiddleback, there's all different kinds of bird's eyes. You know, a specific wood like that, if you could get different varieties of it, I did it. But basically, I would get different woods that some of it I didn't even have any idea. I went to Australia in, I believe it was 2000, and people started realizing I was looking for wood, so they brought me some wood that I didn't have. I went back 2 years later, and these guys came with handfuls of wood. That year for Easter, I turned 101 eggs, which kept me busy for a while. But I have always enjoyed them. There's a few things that I think you should do is do the best you can with them. When I first started turning them, I refused to do anything with them like sign them or anything of that nature because I wanted them just to be eggs. So I started getting enough species that I started forgetting what they were. So I started writing on the back of the egg what the species was. So my daughter had quite a few of them, and she said, Dad, would you do mine too? I said, sure. Excuse me. So I got one of her eggs, and I looked at it, and it would have done serious damage to any chicken that laid it. I had made that egg for her when she could have walked underneath my lathe without touching it. So I says, well, I'll get rid of this egg and get you a new one. And her comment was, no, you won't. I've had that all my life, and I'm keeping it. So always try and do the best you can when you make your eggs, believe me. But I think there's a lot of different things. And when I decided that I was making eggs and going to have a collection, I wanted to take and make them all the same. I didn't want to take and have a wren egg alongside of an ostrich egg. It just wouldn't suit me. So I set up parameters. I went to the refrigerator. I got an egg out that I liked, and I made a template. And I still use those templates today. And one of the things, if you're going to make an egg and you want, or anything, and you want to make multiples of it, you want to take and
Fine. We'll move you.
You want to start with the same block all the time. I drew an egg on here just to show you the size of what it's on there. But if you have the same size block, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be in those parameters that you're going to end up with the egg.
Turn it just a little, Dick. You see the picture up there? Here, like this. So they can see.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I just drew it on there so you could see where the egg was in position. And I always ask if anybody says, well, what size egg do you, or block of wood do you need? I need a 2 by 2 by 3. That gives me a little bit of leeway on both ends. If I have, say, a crack or something in it, I can kind of shift it one way or another. So I always said 2 by 2 by 3. If you have a piece bigger and you say you're going to make that egg the size that the rest of them, and say this is 3 by 3, I'll guarantee it's going to be bigger because the human nature is you want to use the entire block. So that's why I always go with the same size block. Do you want to take and go with the thing now, or
Whatever you'd like to do.
yeah? Why don't we?
Okay.
I've got a clip that we turned. John took and photographed it, and I'll kind of narrate it as we go along. Live center in the center of the drive. Putting it in my lathe. Okay, now you're going to see me do something different. You see the lathe is running. I loosened the tailstock. I allowed it to center itself, and I relocked it. Pause that if you can.
I can.
Okay, now my feelings are when you have a lathe, a wood lathe, it has to have some clearance for the tailstock to run back and forth. A metal lathe has gibs and ways on it that keeps it in precision movement, but this has to have a little bit of play. Now, someone's going to say, well, my lathe is within 5 thousandths, which I doubt it, but it may be. But now let's take into consideration that we're going to take and drill a hole. If I take and put a chuck in there, I've extended it 4 inches. Let's put a drill in there. Now I extended it another 4 inches, so we're now 8 inches. And let's crank out the quill a little bit, so now we're up to 10 to 12 inches. Now, if you compound that off to the side, that 5 thousandths is now probably a 32nd. So by allowing that tailstock to center itself on a moving piece of wood or whatever you have in there, it self-aligns itself. That takes everything away from the slop in the lathe. If it's off to one side a little bit, and say you're turning a pen on a mandrel, it sometimes sets up a vibration in there, which if it's not running true, I could see why it does. Now you're going to say, well, what brought that on? Why did I think of something that, well, stupid or simple, whatever you want to think about it? When I was an apprentice, I was working on a lathe, and I had precision stuff I had to turn, and I could not keep my dimensions. And I made a cut 2 or 3 times, and one of the old timers standing behind me, he says, boy, he says, you don't know what you're doing. I says, evidently I don't. I says, I can't figure out why I can't do that. He says, well, this is an old lathe. It has slop in it. He says, when you go to take your dimension, go past where you want to be and then back it out to the dimension that you want. So I did that. And from then on, I could make the dimensions that I wanted because I took the slop out of the lathe. And basically, that's what I'm doing right now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Just knocking it down to round. That is the template that I made. And the lines are my parameters.
You want to go back to that a little, or you want to? Is that okay? Can't hear me.
That is set for 1 3/4 inches. Now I'm hitting the either ends of it, my parameters.
Yeah, it sure takes the guesswork out of making a long, skinny egg when you put them parameters in, doesn't it?
Yes. Just getting rid of some of the waste so I could take and turn the egg. I'm using that spindle gouge to do some rough shaping because it moves a lot of wood in a hurry.
Looks like you've done that a few times, Dick.
Twice.
And that center parameter, just make sure that your overall thickness stays where you want it to.
Yes, yes. You leave that. That's the last thing you trim off. Okay, now I couldn't get in real close with the roughing gouge, so now I've gone to a spindle gouge.
You sure make it look easy. What I like about this is I can watch this now how many times over to remember the tool control and the way to turn the flutes.
Okay, what I'm doing now is using a shear scrape. I find that is kind of helps me get the shape of the egg that I'm looking for.
There's a truism in turning that you can't turn uphill. You want to talk about that a little?
Shear scraping you can.
Does that surprise you? Didn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, actually shear scraping you can scrape just about anywhere you want. Now I use a cloth back for my initial sanding on that because it kind of conforms to the egg and it takes and rides on the high spots and knocks them off and bridges over the low spots. So it just makes an even egg. If you want to pause that a second.
Sure.
Over the years, I've developed how I like to do sandpaper.
There you go.
Okay,
Yeah, just a little bit higher. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Oh.
There we go. How's that?
No, look here.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, I take a sheet of sandpaper and I cut it into thirds the long way. Then I cut those long ones in half. Then I fold my paper into thirds. This gives it kind of a padded feeling when you sand with it. You got two good sides, and when you always get into that bad spot, you have a third. Also, I take and I go from 120, 240, 320, 400, and 600. And as I work them, I keep them in my position. Next time I need them, I got them all in order again. The sandpaper that I use, I've been using for years, and I really like it. It's called Thin Cat. And the only place I've seen it is Craft Supplies, but it's a very, very good paper as far as I'm concerned. It works for me.
Somebody asked, do you have the egg template in a PDF format? I'm confident the answer is no, but would it be hard for us to do that for you?
Well, there again, let me go on that.
Okay.
When I made my template, I wanted one that was sturdy. So I went to Home Depot and I went into
Let's try something here.
the areas that had their Formica, and they had the little samples. And I would say, well, my wife might like that one, maybe this one, that color is kind of neat, And I'd take them home, and well, at one time I used to be welcome at Home Depot, but I found they made very good templates. They were just small enough. I even have taken them and squared them and used them as like a square to go into somewhere that I couldn't get in with a scale, a ruler, or any of that nature. But what I did is I just took and cut it on the bandsaw and then filed it in the best I could. And being a tool maker, I guess I didn't have too much of a problem doing that. Okie doke.
Okay, we'll go back to the video, we hope. Look at that.
Awesome.
Like we knew what we were doing.
And if you asked if the dust collector was running, just look it over there.
And you sand at a little faster speed than what I've seen some people sand.
On small items, I really don't see what slowing it down does a lot for it. They say it makes the paper cut, but I mean, I don't know. I don't have a problem. Now, if I'm doing a bowl, yes, I turn that down because on a bowl, it never is as smooth as what that egg is, and you follow everything along with as you're doing it. In other words, if you were running that fast on a bowl, it'd be unsafe, but it also would skip over the low spots. So you want to take and kind of keep it tight to the surface that you're sanding.
Of course, those that didn't notice, that jar of Def that he just held up was another project that he's made with the brush lids.
That was one of the projects that we always did down at Campbell. I taught down at John C. Campbell Folk School in Brasstown, North Carolina for 20 years, and that was one of the projects that the guys always did.
Is it in the other video as well?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, then we'll stop it on the other video and spend some time on it.
And I like paper towels. I do not use any cloth.
And you just brush it on, let it kind of soak in a bit, and then just burnish it off?
Well, it all depends on the egg itself. If you hold that a minute.
Sure.
I use a 50-50 thin deft on something that will absorb it. This egg a little bit had some, I wouldn't say soft spots, but it had the figure in it in places where would soak in. So if I had something that was really taking and absorbing the deft, I would just keep painting that until it absorbed it, then wipe it off, and then go to the straight deft. Most of the time, I don't even have to use the thin stuff if the egg or whatever I'm doing is nice and smooth, without that type of wood that will absorb it. If it absorbs it, yes, I use the deft thin.
If any of you have questions that I'm missing, please feel free to put them up more than once. Honestly, I'm getting engrossed in what Dick is saying, and so if I happen to miss a chat, let me know it, and I will be happy to pass it along. But I'm no dean.
Now, do you want to talk about the jig now or
Not now.
afterwards?
We'll
Okay.
go through it, and after we're done with the egg, I'll talk about the jig. Hold this a second.
Hold this a second. We will do that. We'll
Okay.
back up so that you can see it again, too.
A lot of the people say you don't need this. They just take a skew or something and trim the ends off. It's very easy when you're doing that to take and rub too hard against the end grain and burnish it, which doesn't sand out worth a darn. And the second thing is, sometimes when you get down to the very end and you make that cut, it pulls a couple fibers from the egg and leaves a hole. I didn't want that in any of my eggs, so that's why I developed my finger chuck here. And after we're done with this, I'll go through on how to make that chuck.
What do you cut the deft with? What is the thinning agent?
Lacquer thinner.
Thank you.
Deft is a lacquer-based brushing lacquer.
Which, when we have the picture now, it's called Prolux because the company has changed, but it's the same deft recipe, just a different name.
Right. You'll see in the corner there's a round circle. That's the deft same formula.
Now, as you bring your tailstock up, that's going to center that, correct?
Yes. That's why I did not cut the ends off, because I needed the center of that
The reference.
to locate the egg back in there.
And you're not over tightening it yet, right?
No. I've just got to
Just
get
enough to
everything
hold it.
centered there. Now, someone's going to say, well, isn't that kind of dangerous to have those hose clamps swinging around? Yes, it is.
Don't hit them.
Well, like when I was teaching and people were doing that, I would tell them you could take a piece of tape and tape over it, could put a rubber band around it, put one of those wrist sleeves over it, could do a lot of things, or you could do what I did and pay attention. I don't know of any way that I could tighten that down without the clamps like that.
Sure.
Now I'm using a thinner parting tool because it's not cutting as much and it's not as aggressive going through there.
See how he just bumps it? He got it so fine that he can just tap it.
Now a skew really is a skew, but you can use it as a negative scraper. Anything less than 90 degrees makes it negative. I like it because you can put a razor edge on it and put a burr on it if you have to, and it just works quite nice for me.
If you don't have the talent to do this, sandpaper will work, but it will take a little longer. And after you do it 5 or 6 times, you can develop the talent to do it,
Yep.
which is also another way of looking at it. But I have to answer the phone to all the people that don't make it work. That's beautiful.
And yes, I run my fingers on that because sometimes I can feel what I can't see.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, we used to make model airplanes and using dope. I don't know if you remember that Tester's paint and dope, all that good stuff. And that was lacquer base. And I think I became addicted to it, and that's why I like to use multiple coats today.
Oh, I love the smell of Deft in the morning. I do. It smells so good.
Okay, I have made a wooden stick that I take and push that egg around with because I used to just use my wrench there, and sometimes that would take and mark up a soft egg.
Yeah.
And if you get the right wood, the really special stuff, it'll stick to your lathe.
Actually, there's a magnet at the end of it.
I told him I can do that with mine too. A little pancake syrup in the morning does the trick.
Again, using that 1/16 parting tool. Naturally, they're sharp.
How do you reply to someone here? I'm on mobile and I can't figure out how to do it. Okay, laptop. Yeah, never mind. I don't know is the answer, but Don probably will tell you. There you go. Get help from your friends.
Now, do you always position the egg when you initially turn them to where the large end's at one and the thin end at the other?
No, not really. Sometimes I turn whichever end has the biggest scrap left on it.
Okay.
Because that's on the outside, and I turn it off. And if it's on the other side, sometimes it's difficult to get that stick in there and push the egg out because the piece is too big.
Okay.
That would be the only reason that I would even consider it. I always liked the Def because I could just take and put it on, and buff it off, and it's dry.
And it leaves a nice sheen to it too.
Yes,
It's
I use
nice
a semi-gloss. I have tried the gloss, and I really don't care for that at all.
Does it not take out the figure as well?
It just didn't work nice for me.
Okay.
In your end grains, you don't use the thin 50/50, use full strength, right?
I didn't need to because it was so nice and smooth. I didn't have anything that was going to soak it up, so I just left it. If I thought it was going to soak it up, I definitely would have done it.
Yeah, it was polished on a buffing system.
Yeah, just a few other examples.
Some other things that Dick has made. I think that's all there is.
Yes,
of that
that's
one,
the
my
end
friend.
of that.
Okay. You want to go right into the other one? Or
No,
You
I
want to
think
talk
I'm gonna
about this chuck?
I'm gonna do the,
Okay.
the chuck.
Okay.
Yeah, and the nice thing about this being recorded is now, if there's anybody that's going to make this, they can just cue the video up and watch it and pause it where you need to. And
My chuck. There's a little story behind that also.
We're going to try a close up of that, Dick, for just
Okay.
a minute here. We'll see how I do. Okay.
That's good.
You think that's good?
Sure.
you can,
Okay. Then I won't fool with it so I don't mess it up.
When I first started making chucks like this, and in fact that was before eggs. I forget what I was making one time, and I needed something that they can hold it, so I made a finger chuck like this out of wood. Now the hard thing about making it out of wood is when you take and make that, the grain is different in different spots around there. In other words, if the pith is over here, the grain is running like this, and then it gets tighter and tighter as it gets closer to the pith. Well, sometimes that would make where the fingers were not flexible in places. One flexed different than another. And when I did the book, I did use a wooden one. And lo and behold, when I do things like that, when I lay in bed at night, and if I'm not sleeping, my mind is working, and I said, why didn't I do something else on that finger chuck? And it dawned on me, why don't I use PVC? There is no grain in it. It's all uniform and even. So that's what I did. What I do is get a coupling, an 1.5-inch coupling, and I take the pipe and I cut it 1 3/8 inches, which goes to the center. There's a ridge in there that when you put two pipes together, it centers them. Okay, so this one is the 1 3/8 inches, and it goes to the center. Now this one is only 3/4 of an inch. And the reason for that,
It's doing a good job.
I was just going to say, yeah, is that the red button though? The red.
I don't know, but it's doing a good job.
now this 3/4,
We're not doing that.
No, the camera has a mind
The
of its
camera
own.
is on its own.
It's following your hand movement.
this 3/4 piece I put in there so that I could take and have enough material to make a hold for the chuck. And I use a dovetail. I wanted the dovetail to be on the inside so that my jaws were kind of not sticking out all over on the outside and catching on whatever, including me. The other piece glued into the other end.
When you look at it there, it's doing pretty well.
Until it gets moving.
It is in here because I needed more material to get my size. Then I took and actually, I'm working backwards here. This actually has a cove in it. If it was straight, you would only contact that egg in one point. But with a cove, you're going to hit 1 and 2. So in other words, it's going to keep that egg from rocking on you. So that's why I put the cove in there. The reason I stopped this one was to take and leave space in here for the holes. And you got to have those holes in there because this is what's rocking. If this was solid, now you're rocking on just this little bit by the holes. That's where it's flexing. So that's why you only have one thickness on the inside, and I just left that area open. Now, the last one, when I go to my drill press, I have a dowel in there. Well, first on the opposite side, I lock this down on my drill press, and I actually pick up the center here.
Let's see if we can get it, Dick.
I put that up there, and I have indicated on my degree wheel on my lathe and marked this. So I bring it up to the top dead center, I drill through, and I make all the way through. You're drilling 2 holes at once. Rotate it, do the next one. You do that 4 times and you got them all. Then
come on.
I go to the bandsaw. Well, let me back up a little bit before that. Before I go to the bandsaw, I have to cut for my bands.
I'll try.
And what I've done, I've just made a piece of block that goes in there and use my tailstock, and that holds it nice and steady where I can cut more my band areas. And I make it just so that the bands just go down and fit in there. Now I go to my bandsaw when I'm all done with that, and I take my jig and I set it up on the bandsaw. I have my pin, and I have my cut that runs right into the center of the pin. This goes up against the fence on the bandsaw. I just run it along the fence and cut top and bottom at the same time. Now, what you want to do is you want to hold those the best you can because they'll want to vibrate on you. Now, when you're cutting these fingers, be very careful which fingers you cut. I don't have a problem, but I mean, you can normally just hold against it as such. And I use a pretty fine blade in my bandsaw all the time. I got either a 10 or 12 3/16 blade in my bandsaw most of the time. And it cuts it pretty smooth and even. I mean, it's not, if you got a 3-tooth blade in there, I would wonder. I think it would rip it through on there and cause you problems. So that's basically how I've made my chuck and why I use it.
I like how your mind's wandering. You're laying in bed and you come up with this, kind of like the flux capacitor. You know, it just.
That is one thing that I sometimes wish didn't happen. It is one of those things that keeps you awake at night, but that's how I come up with some of the stuff. So I guess it's not too bad. Probably go to the other one now.
Okie doke.
You want to talk about
Yeah,
setting up your blanks first?
Go ahead and think about it. You got this marked out. Show them what you were talking.
Okay. So prior to all this, Dick had received a couple of blanks and looked at them to decide where he wanted to cut these, so that way he would maximize what's going on inside. So I thought we were done.
We almost got done. Sorry, guys.
So when you get your blanks, just don't always take it for granted that you're going to drill in the center of it and everything's going to be fine. You do have some leeway, and with the kaleidoscopes, they're just, what are they?
2 1/4.
2 1/4. So you have a little bit of play if you're getting a blank. 2 1/4 in length.
2 inches the other way.
So what do they usually turn out? 1 3/4.
Yeah.
So roughly 1 3/4. So you can cut a little bit off of one side or another when you look at these to kind of figure out where you're going to maximize your potential. With a hybrid, I always like to have something that's more centered, so it's a little even in wood as it is with resin. So you can kind of play around with that, and you can shift your lines. So by trimming a little off this side, it moved my center in a little more closer to the wood, and then the same as this. So just don't take it for granted that you've got to turn that whole chunk, right? You can slice some and kind of manipulate where your center is going to be to maximize the character in your blank.
Show them the one you did there, or what we did with that one.
So, and there's a close-up on the video that you guys will see of this, but basically this is what we're talking about is you're maximizing the coverage. It's hard to show without my fingers being in your way, but you're going to maximize what you get out of this blank. So as you look at your blank, just kind of turn it around, figure out what side you want to cut off of, because had we cut off the wood side, it would have moved the center further into the resin. So in this one, he cut a little more resin off to move the hole closer to the wood, and that allowed him to get a little more character higher up in it. And of course, every blank's going to be different. You just don't know what you're going to get sometimes. But paying attention to the overall blank, and if you look at the ends of them, you can see more about what's going on so you know where you want to drill. Okay.
With that, we move on to the egg 2. Egg 2. Okay,
It's
is that not started? Let's get back to the beginning.
Sling.
There we go.
The last one. It's a sing sling.
Okay. You should be moving. Yeah, I guess you're moving. There we go. So
Okay, the blank is 2 1/4 inches long. And what I did is I just closed the chuck up to where it's going to hold, and then I took my Forstner bit and made sure that I had clearance on the jaws to go past where the blank ended. It would be kind of a noisy thing if you ran into the chuck instead of having a clearance behind it.
Not good for the next time you use that
Right.
bit.
Okay, now what I'm going to do is allow that to center itself. Okay, it has centered. Now I just push it in by hand. This is just a 27/64 that I had laying there.
you can tell you're right if the drill bit does not chatter after you put it in.
Right.
If you've had experience with not getting the center, it will your drill bit will wobble.
One of the things, if you noticed, put a hold on that a second. When you drill, I don't know if you noticed that the shavings were coming out of there. That blank right now was not really hot because the shavings bring the heat out with them. If you don't keep cleaning that out, the shavings get in there and they pack up and create heat through rubbing. So always bring that out, and especially on a pen blank, when you make that long piece, if you're doing it and keeping the shavings out of there, your pen blank doesn't get hot.
And you're not drilling at a fast speed either.
No,
right?
no. When I drill, when the bit is centered and I start applying pressure, once the flutes enter that blank, you're done. You can't control anything other than the pressure that you put on it. When I put a pressure on it and it starts drilling, all of a sudden it starts getting harder to get those shavings out of there. You're piling them up. So feel what you're doing. Even if you're using the hand wheel, you'll know it when things start getting piled up in there.
Or you'll smell it.
Yes. Again, what brought that on? When I was an apprentice, we had metal shapers. A metal shaper is not like a rotating shaper like you think. It's like it would make a long cut, and normally it was to flatten out a steel, and you used like an oversized bit that came off a lathe. We would be using water hardened steel and taking a good cut, and when you got to the end, the piece that flew off the chip or the shaving was cobalt blue, and when it hit the wood floor, it would actually smoke. And you could lay your hand on that steel, and it was cool. All the heat went in that shaving, and it works the same way on a drill.
I didn't know that. Okay, there it is.
Now I'll just bring that up very lightly and allow it to find its center. Now I'll lock it down and drill. I used the 27/64 just to make that Forstner bit go in easier. It didn't have to cut near as much as it did if you used it only.
Ian Welford says hi.
You can tell where the wood started and the resin quit.
You're using a mandrel and a mandrel saver on this, right?
Yep.
Again, I allowed it to center itself. Get in the habit of allowing that tailstock to center itself. It'll save you a lot of headaches. And as you can see, my thumb is stopping all that resin from flying all over the place. I didn't have to use the end parameters on account of it's already cut the length.
And someone had asked, why not turn between centers? It's just a preference thing, right? I mean,
how else would you turn it?
Right. I mean, there are turn between centers where they're cones,
in other words,
and not on a mandrel, but it's just a different type of mandrel. So it really just comes down to preference. Yeah.
In either case, you're using essentially bushings.
Yes.
And so it's all a matter of turning to the bushings, no matter which way you choose to use it. I do almost everything between centers now, but it's no different. It's just a different center. The rest of it's the same.
Right. Yeah, it's just a post.
And if you notice, on the threads of the lathe, there's one of those Underhill creations that kind of cover the lathe or the threads up so you don't get them all wound up in there.
Underhill might have made it, but in all honesty, it's a Dick Singh creation. Let's not kid ourselves. We know where that came from.
Oh, come on. That was for you.
Uh-huh. Give credit where credit's due. Look at the fine little shavings misting off the tip of that. How come mine don't look like that?
Well, he's only touching the thing at a little tiny piece.
Right.
It'll take him a month to get a egg out of it.
I'm kind of surprised that no one has asked what RPM I'm turning.
They've heard our answer to that 1,000 times.
They've heard us quote you.
Put that on hold once.
Oh, you got to tell me ahead of time. Here we go.
Okay, RPM stands for revolutions per minute. And I don't think that should be what you're really looking for. What you're looking for is surface speed. What does that relate to? Let's take a pen blank, and the diameter, if you laid that out in a straight line, maybe we'll just say an inch. If you took a 12-inch bowl blank and laid it out on a straight line, you probably have 1.5 feet roughly. They're both going the same RPM. If you cranked up the bowl blank to what you were doing on the small blank, it would be dangerous as hell, believe me. But you have to vary the RPM to get the surface speed that you need. Naturally, on the pen blank, that little 1 inch can be run much faster than what the bowl blank could. There are all kinds of charts that tell you exactly what diameter you should be running for RPM and that. They're good places to start. They're not wrong, but myself, I probably turn a little slower than a lot of people do. And if I had to tell you what RPM I was turning on that lathe, I couldn't tell you. I don't have a tachometer on it. But I know if you were watching when I came down there, those little fine shavings, I wasn't pushing on them. I was just keeping the tool up against that cutting edge, and it was just moving along almost on its own. A lot of folks say that if it's not cutting good, they'll increase their RPM. Well, most of the time when that happens, what they should do is forget about the RPMs and walk over to their grinder and sharpen their tool. But once your tool is sharp and you are moving at what I consider your movements, whatever feels comfortable for you to move. If it's too slow, you're going to be pushing on that. If it's too fast, it's going to be kind of jumping because you're trying to keep up with it. So when you find that happy medium, it is almost like you lay your tool up there and apply a little bit of pressure, and it automatically just moves along with the cut. That's what you're really looking for. And the only way I know how to do that is pay attention when you're cutting and play around, practice with it. And yes, the charts will get you started, but in between there, that's a personal thing. You notice on the lathe, that's why I sometimes use John Underhill's name in vain.
Yeah, there's times that he'll call me and say, "Well, did you hear me? I was cussing you last night."
As he's making that cut, when I did a pepper mill video one time, I made almost exactly that same cut on the cap,
Mm-hmm.
and the skew slid all the way across both directions. It had it really messed up. You need to have tool control.
I think I have a very light touch when I cut.
Yep.
Um,
Well, and you probably need to with hybrids.
well, not only that, but anything that I cut, I always have. And when I've taught classes and people say, well, you don't seem like you're hardly holding it, and I would tell them as I was cutting, take the back of the tool and pull straight away. And they would, and they say, well,
You're not
you
holding
turned loose of it. I said, no, I did not.
it.
But that's how I hold it that light.
Caress the tool.
The tool does the cutting. You don't do the cutting.
Part of that is you're very good at sharpening, and lots of people aren't. But a
Yes,
sharp tool will do amazing things
Mm-hmm.
that a dull tool won't. Ask me
definitely.
how I know that, because I can make a dull tool better than anybody.
My tools that I were using are powdered metal. And hold that a second.
Okay.
We were talking sharpening. But tools that I use are basically powdered metal. And I didn't like the tools before when I was using stone wheels. They just didn't seem to get sharp. And I really didn't care for them at all. And then I got a CBN wheel. And that CBN wheel on powdered metal like that, you can shave with them. It just made a whole new world for me. And I love my tools now because they last quite well. But you can put an edge on them that is unreal.
You can put an edge on this.
There
I
you
lost
go, the plate.
myself.
There you go.
There we go.
You got it.
It was.
There's that circle that says same different formula.
Or different name, yeah. Yep. And it sure brings that wood to life. It made the resin glow.
I've been using that since the 60s. And I didn't see any reason really to stop.
Yeah, I've always liked Def Lacquer. Even out of the can, it was good stuff. Well, that's a nice blank.
I'm guessing that's an Underhill blank.
Oh, I did cast that. That's next.
That's the
next
one
demo.
right there.
That's the next demo. Casting with Dick Singh.
Really? That should be interesting.
No, I don't think that's going to happen.
And someone had asked if you're going to be in the MPG at the MPG this year.
Yeah, I saw that. God willing, the creek don't rise.
Now, what I like about the kaleidoscopes are you can put your finger in it, and it's less to leave my hand when I'm buffing. Not that I have that problem. I'm just saying. Occasionally, things fly in directions that I don't want.
Now, I happen to have a wife that loves to put that together. So it's kind of nice when she takes and puts them all together for me, and all I have to do is insert them. One Christmas, we made kaleidoscope for everybody. And she took in the box that holds all the different stones and glass pieces and that, she made it to whatever person's color they liked, or birthstones, or whatever, but everybody got one that pertained to their color.
That's the end of that.
And that's that.
Okay, I'm going to give you a little tip on kaleidoscopes. If you're going to err on that 2¼ inch, err slightly larger. If you err under, it has a habit of hitting those mirrors and won't let you seat things in there right. Now, I'm not telling you to leave it a 1/4 inch or anything like that, because that's just the opposite. But, maybe a 32nd. And that way, everything goes together and nothing contacts each other like the mirrors in there. So it makes it easier. Life becomes simpler rather than trying to get something set where you're jamming up against the mirrors, which I have broken them before.
Do you know how you're doing the giveaway?
Oh, that's a good point. We have no idea how we're doing the giveaway.
I know usually Dean uses a random something and
random generator, which we don't have a random, but we have an idea of how we're going to do it. However, I don't see anything here that shows the hash marks. If we did a hash mark like he does, I don't see where it would show up. Would it show up on the chat, you think?
well, they usually post in the chat, but I don't know anything about that.
Let's try that. Just for grins and giggles, guys, we do have a giveaway, which is Dick's book and autographed by Dick Singh and authorized by Dick Singh. We have only one of those, but we thought we'd give that away, and also a $25 gift certificate to Exotic Blanks as a second prize. Clearly, second, not anywhere near as valuable as the first. But let's try hashtag Dick, D-I-C-K, and we'll see how that works out. Dawn will pick the winner from her area. She has a random number that we're going to work with. And so if you happen to be the person that hits the random number, you win. If you get the second number, you get second prize. Pretty complicated, but I think you'll all figure it out. So hashtag Dick, D-I-C-K.
In the meantime, somebody had asked how long you'd had your Vic mark, and they commented that they liked theirs.
I've had my Vic mark since, I believe, 1985. Yes, I think that was it. But my first lathe.
Did I not spell it?
Yeah, I don't know if it'll.
My first lathe was.
Oh.
Could be a word.
I can't remember the name. It looked like it had been made by Delta, and it was with bushings. It was nice, just a 10-inch lathe. It was nice, and back in '65 there was very, very few lathes around. I'd asked the lady, well, let me back up again a little bit. Good story.
Excuse me, just 1 minute.
Yes.
We are guessing that the software won't allow you to put in Dick. So let's try Sing. Hash mark Sing, S-I-N-G. We think we're probably a little like Exotics when we put out any kind of email. All the Googles think that Exotic shouldn't be something. So Sing is working. Thank you very much. And back to Dick's story. Thank you.
My daughter.
She doesn't already have a book? I hope she wins it. Wait a minute, I got a hashtag Sing. I might not this too.
Yeah, anytime that we put Dick in something, it just says all the stars.
Sorry about that.
They won't put
Never
it in there.
occurred to me.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dick. Sorry.
Okay, back in 1965, I was married 1 year to my ex-wife, and my father called up one day after work and he says, "Hey, there's a lathe in the paper. You want to go look at it?" And I said, "Sure." So my wife told us, she says, "Don't buy it. We don't have any money." And we didn't. So anyway, I go over and I look at it, and it's, like I said, it looked like a small, been made by Delta, and cast iron bushings, dirty, had a bench that was some tools that were useless. And I said to the woman, "Why are you selling this?" And she says, "Well, my husband died, and I'm trying to get rid of things." I says, "Well, what do you want for it?" She says, $10. Well, I ripped my pocket trying to get my wallet out. And when I went home, my ex was kind of upset because I spent $10 on a lathe. So that Christmas, I made 10-inch cherry candlesticks for my mother and for her mother. I still have my mother's. They're beautiful. The next year, I made a bowl for my mother and her mother. The third year, I forget what I made, and she finally said, that really was a pretty good buy for $10, wasn't it?
Of course, all of them were found wood, so.
So that was always pretty good. I laugh about that. And my nephew, his father-in-law has it now, so it's still hanging around.
Nice.
But it was a pretty neat little lathe. And being a tool and die maker, I worked that lathe just like a metal lathe. I set everything up on center line, and it was a perfect scrape. So one day I was reading a book by Payne. He was an English turner, and he was showing how to take the skew and use the skew. And I was sitting in my chair reading that, and I says, "Man, that guy's going to kill himself." I says, I just had to just misread that. So I read it again. Same thing. I reread it. And I said, "Man, that guy's got to kill himself." So I said, "Well, I'll go kill myself." So I tried it. I went down, did what he told me, and rolled his shaving off. And all of a sudden, my eyes opened up. Instead of scraping, I was actually cutting. And then I learned how to cut with a gouge from a fellow by the name of Dale Nish, Mr. Craft Supplies USA. And once I learned how to cut, my whole world opened up. And if you don't know how to cut, boy, learn. Of course, with the new carbide tools, that's all scraping, really.
Yep.
Everything. I was down to Campbell, and one of the fellows had a set of those, and he turned something and called me over, and he says, "What do you think of that? It's pretty smooth, isn't it?" I said, "No." He says, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Just a minute." So I went over and I got my skew and I took a cut on it. And he's standing there, and he had to move his foot to get it off his chin. "You did that with a stool?" He says, "Can you teach me how to do that?" I said, "Why are you here?" And he actually went with the regular tools and learned how to cut. Are those tools good? Yeah, they're good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. A lot of people use it. It's very easy. It's compared to cutting with regular tools. They're simple. But I'll take my cutting tools any day of the week. Do I use them? Occasionally. On my chuck, to go in and hollow that out a little bit, I did use
Thank you.
one of the ones just to go in where I couldn't get in any other way. Go ahead.
Now we've got winners. Don brought me the important information. The winner of the book is Rory GED.
GIEL.
GIEL. Well, okay. And we need your information, please. Send us an email at exoticblanks sales at exoticblanks.com.
718.
That way we know where to send it to you. Otherwise, we're kind of up a creek. And second place for the $25 gift certificate is CC Sumat, SUMATT. Again, send us your information, please, sales at exoticblanks.com. Thank you all for your entries, and back to Dick. And one of the things that I'll add in here, carbide tools have got a couple of advantages. Number one, when you deal with somebody who has never turned anything, I had a gentleman that worked for me for many years, and he wanted to learn how to turn. So I thought, okay, I'll teach him how to turn. Of course, there were a few things he could turn around exotic blanks. So I thought, well, let's try this. So I taught him how to use a carbide tool in about 20 minutes. And admittedly, he got a ton of stuff to turn. But within 6 months, he was turning really nice work. I don't think that you could possibly teach somebody that quickly when you're working with real tools, I call them, I'm sorry, but the high-speed steel or any other of the tools that we use when you've been doing it for a while. So if you're looking for simplicity, that is really a simple tool. Keep it horizontal and you will turn just fine. The other thing about it that I use it for, if I have a really hard substance, the stones, true stone, other stones, the carbide seems to be easier to manipulate, and also animal bone. If you're trying to do a very hard animal bone, not antler is not that hard. We're talking zebra leg bone, that type of thing. It is easier to do with a carbide tool. But I agree with Dick completely. I don't pick up a carbide tool once every 6 months, but when I need it, I do enjoy having it available.
I have a full set of them, and occasionally I get into situations where I have a difficult time getting my cutting tools into place, and I do use them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have a good friend who was a very good turner. I mean, a good turner. And he was teaching out in Utah in school. And I asked him what his opinion of those tools were. And he says in his class, he liked them because the kids could handle them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, so 6 one of a half a dozen of another. You know,
That gets them into the game. You know, if they can get into the game with minimal pain, they will learn to turn things, and they may find out they like it. And down the road somewhere, they may decide they want to learn both techniques or at least give it a shot. So,
well, if you're using them, some of the regular tools, you can get into places you can't with those tools.
Yep.
You know, so I don't care how good they become with them, they still are going to have to either modify what they've got or use standard tools.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And there's times where I'll start out with carbide and get things close, and then I'll take my skew, especially if you're trying to get close to bushings. I'll use a skew and just kind of level it out, but I'll use a wider skew, and I just feel like it's easier to get a smooth taper as opposed to, well, I know the one time I turned that, it was I believe it was a small dish or bowl, and I brought it over to you to look at, and the first thing you did was put your fingers in it, and you said, you used the carbide tool, a round one, to cut the bottom on the inside, didn't you? Because you could feel how it wasn't smooth. It was kind of dipped where it got a little aggressive in some areas.
When he took it home, it was smooth.
Yeah. So it was comical because he said, you can't leave my house with this looking like this. We have to fix this. No, I'm not going to have that out. You left my house and it looked like this. So I learned a lot that day. And I got a better bowl out of it. So
Well, I don't know if someone has. I haven't had anybody ask questions or something. I must be doing something wrong, or they all fell asleep. Well, don't have any of that, but if you would like, I could do a little bit of talking about some of the places I've been.
That would be great. That would be great. We will still entertain questions,
Yes.
but at the same time, Dick has. We've been lucky enough to listen and talk with Dick for the last 3 or 4 hours, and it's been a wonderful experience. So perhaps we can share a small portion of it with you. We seem to have about half an hour available, so why don't we do that?
I had a good friend who has passed away by the name of Vic Wood. He lived in Burwood, Australia, just outside of Melbourne, and he was instrumental in getting me over to Australia. So the first time I went to Australia, we were there for a month, and he had me set up in various areas, Wagga Wagga, uh, all different towns, and it was quite nice. One of the things that I really think back about, we went to Phillip Island, and there was a boys' camp there, and I forget what they called it, turnaround or something of that nature, but there were 110 people there, and each one of them had brought a lathe. The whole gymnasium was just lathe upon lathe upon lathe. And I says, well, what am I doing here? And they said, walk around. I'd walk around, someone would grab me, hey, how do you do this? Show me. So I'd show them a little bit, okay, get off my lathe, I need it. And I'd walk around, somebody else would grab me, but a young kid about, 12, 14 years old, walked up to me and he says, Mr. Singh? And I says, yes. Would you teach me how to use a bowl gouge? I said, sure. So I went over and played with that kid. And naturally, whenever I did something, people would stop turning and it kind of crowd around. And I finally got this kid where he was comfortable using a bowl gouge. So I felt quite proud of that. And I walked around, and later on, I get this tug on my shirt. And he says, Mr. Singh, would you show me how to sharpen that bowl gouge? But that was the highlight of that whole thing as far as I was concerned. And we went back 2 years later, and I was off for a week, and we went to Tasmania. And Tasmania was a very, very interesting place. But the only thing bad about that was that while we were there, I was shaving one morning and I looked at this little black and white TV and I see this airplane fly into a building. And I thought, what is going on? Well, that was when 9/11 happened. So naturally, we were in there and we were going around. I stopped at night in one of the towns for a motel. And naturally, when we walked in and spoke, oh, the Yanks, So the woman says, do you know what happened? And I says, yes. She says, we're sorry, blah, blah. I says, well, could you tell me where there's a internet cafe? And back then, that's the only way you could get home was on the internet. She says, you don't need one. She says, there's a computer right over there. Go use it. So I says, well, we need a laundry too. No, you don't need a laundry. There's a washer, dryer, and soap. Use it. So her husband come in. And she says, these are the Yanks. Oh, he turned around, he come back, and he had a web with 3 beer cans on it. He says, I think you could use a coldie. And that's the way they treated us, and it was great. But we were there until October 11th, or 5th, rather. And when we were going home, I says, how am I going to get my long gouges on an airplane? It's just not going to happen. But I got up there and the guy says, I have to go through your luggage. I said, no problem. Unzip it. Anything in here will hurt me. I said, no. Runs his hands through. Next one, the same way. Take my tool bag and I throw it up. unzipped it, and I says, "This will hurt you." So he opened it up, and on top was a little bag that had a chuck in it. And he opened it up, and he goes, "You're a wood turner." He says, "What are you doing over here?" I says, "I've been turning." "Where?" I said, "Oh, Phillip Island, Wagga Wagga." And, boy, he says, "I wish I'd have known you were here. I'd have watched it." He zipped everything up, and everything went through the bag.
Jeez.
But we had some really good times in Australia. I think one of the ones that I really enjoyed, we climbed the Sydney Bridge. We were down, in town, and you'd see people going up on top of there, and that was quite an experience. Number one, they took away everything metal and put it in a locker, put you in a jumpsuit, tested you for a sobriety test. When you got going, you were on like a chastity belt harness, and you snapped onto a cable, and you had about three feet of cable yourself, and you went on up over the bridge and down without getting off of that cable. But when we were on top, looking down, boats going through, cars going down there, I asked the guy, I says, "How high are we?" He says, 440 feet or 5.5 seconds. After we were there, I was going to a place called Mittagong, and it was a bunch of artists got together and we all collaborated. And my wife was going back to stay with Vic Wood's wife. So she was on the plane and she was talking to the guy next to her. And she was saying that we had been up on the bridge, and he says, "Our whole wedding party was going to do that. And you had to pay ahead of time, and it was not refundable unless there was thunder and lightning." And he says, "We couldn't go." And she says, "Why?" He says, "That was after the wedding, and everybody had a good time, and nobody passed the sobriety test, and they would allow them to go up."
I'm not sure I can walk up there and look over that sober.
Oh, it was fine. It was fine. Yeah.
Wow.
And one of the other things that I think was fantastic was the wood turning cruise. That was in Norway. A place down in the bottom corner of Norway called Vertoy, and it was a store that had similar to Woodcraft or any of these stores. Plus, they had classes and stuff, and they would rent a schooling ship every 3 or 4 years. And schooling ships were when kids came out of their schools. If they wanted a maritime degree, they put them on these ships and taught them how to operate the ships. Plus, they also did mail runs and stuff with them. But the first time we were on, there was 117 people on the ship, plus the crew. They sold all the berths to wood turners and everything, and you had neat people. They took the garage and turned it into a virtual tool store. We had guys on lathes. We had a Japanese guy making all those hand cuts where, you wonder how they made that design. We had wood burning, and everybody on the ship was somewhere related to wood turning or carving or something. And we would sail at night and pull into a town maybe 1:00, noon, something around that time. Most of the people, they dropped the front gangplank and they ran off and visited, took tours, whatever. The back gangplank, they lowered, and the people were lined up on the dock to pay to get on the ship to see a woodworking show and to buy tools and supplies. It was unreal. And while they were there, we would take and demonstrate turning or whatever. Next day, we would do the same thing. And we did that for 6 days until we hit the North Cape, which is roughly 1,000 miles from the North Pole. And then the next 6 days, we hit the towns we skipped on the way up. So we were out for 12 days on doing this fun stuff on a little ship. You got to know just about everybody. And in between towns, we would turn for the people on the boat or do things. Somebody always had something going. My wife was knitting with a bunch of ladies, and it was just a very, very neat trip. And we were on that twice, and that was really quite nice. I've been very, very fortunate. I've been to England, Ireland, twice to Australia, a couple times to Alaska. Highlight of Alaska was we were in Anchorage and at the start of the Iditarod, which really was quite the thing to see. I expected to see dogs roughly the size of a Shetland pony. They weren't. They were just small dogs, but I could not believe how those dogs were waiting to run. They had some kind of a thing where they tied a separate sled behind the other sled that was going to be on the Iditarod, and the people paid to ride in that sled through the street of Australia. Just they went maybe a couple blocks, but while they're going, they had people on the dogs holding them back, and the dogs are on their back legs dragging these sleds down the street. And when they did turn them loose, it looked like they had jetpacks on them. It was unreal.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, it was something I always read about but never saw, and it was great. I just been so many places.
All because of wood turning.
All because of wood turning. When our plant was closing, they were telling us we could take in, get more schooling for whatever we needed to take in advance. I mean, we were without a job, and the company really did take great care of us. But when I was going to Utah at the time, it was held at BYU, and I was getting a certificate that I had been to a class at BYU. So as the plant was closing, I was trying to get these cashed in for the money. Well, they kept telling me that that's just a hobby. It'll never happen, Move around to this days now. We still have a couple people that meet for lunch just to get together. And one of the guys is the guy that told me, no, I won't pay you because it's not a hobby. It's just a hobby, And we laugh about that. But I did get my money.
Did you autograph a book for him? Real quick before you go on, Daryl had posted a comment wanting to know where he can find Prolux, the Deft lacquer.
I get it at Ace.
Okay. I think somebody once said it was Home Depot or Menards also.
I don't know. I always had a time, a lot of places didn't handle it, but Ace handles it.
Okay.
There was another question there.
The wax.
What wax do you use when you buff? You're not using a wax, are you? You're just buffing it over the top.
No, I put a little wax on it.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, it's a stick that I had from Tom Hutchison.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Hut wax.
Hut wax.
That's been gone a long time.
Long time, and I don't use much of it. I just enough just to make it feel good.
Okay. Is it the white or the brown, or do you know?
I use the brown.
Use the brown? Okay. That is a product that's still available. We have it. It's, what is it called? Hut polish, I think.
Yeah.
Hut, yeah. Okay.
HUTT across the
It's a
stick.
small stick, but it lasts forever. I still got the ones I used when I was doing shows.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. Sorry.
Tom Hutchison, he made, how would you call those pen blanks that were all, on an angle, diamond wood on an angle.
Basically, that's it. It was diamond wood on an angle.
And he sold them through catalog.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was in his town, and I was going to stop by and see him. I had eaten lunch with him one time and knew him. So how do you find someone that you don't know where he lives? So I stopped. It's a little town. I stopped at the post office. Walked in. The guy won. What can I do for you? I said, where does Tom Hutchison live? Dead quiet. And he says, surely you know where Tom Hutchison lives. He says, yeah, he doesn't want me to tell anybody where his store or his shop is. Oh, I said, that's too bad. I owed him money and I was going to pay him. Well, don't you tell him that how you got there. So he told me how to get there. And as I'm pulling up, a FedEx truck pulls out his driveway. I walked in and he says, how did you get here? Who told you? He says, you'll have a FedEx truck coming out of here and down in this area. There's nobody would have it but you.
Well, I always get a chuckle out of talking about the AAW in the first symposium I went to, and Mark told me, he said, "Well," I said, I don't know who anybody is. I know very few people." And he says, "It won't matter. Just hang around Dick. You'll get to meet everybody." And it is amazing how everybody walks in the door and sees you and flocks. I met so many people that first time I went, just sitting at your table.
I paid them.
Oh, because they definitely made out then.
Over the years, I've met a lot of people and made a lot of friends, and it's always been a very, very interesting thing for me. I used to take and go out sometimes, and one time a guy from Atlanta called me. He says, would you do a demo for our club? And I says, I think so. When you want. And so we set up a date. So probably a day later, I get a phone call. He says, I hear you're coming down to this club. He says, how would you like to do our club? Where you at? Well, we're in Atlanta. Okay, so I made a date with him. Pretty soon I get another phone call. Come down there. You coming down here? Would you do our club? Where you at? Athens. Right next to Atlanta, Okay. Ended up, I spent 2 weeks down in Atlanta. Cindy Haven flew down so she could see me. But the nice thing about that, you were just down there, have a good time. The people always wanted to show you the best. And how can you not have a good time when you're with people that are wanting to learn from you? To me, that was always great. I did do whatever I could to take in and help the people. Had some people that were very inept, but those are the ones you always worked with the most, and did what you could. I was in Ohio, and I had one fellow with the little short man syndrome. We had to put blocks on the table for him to stand up on to get on high enough that he could turn on a little mini lathe. And I spent I don't know how much time with the man. And after lunch, he stopped me and he says, it's about time you spent some time with me. He says, you've been helping everybody else. And I says, well, I hate to tell you. He says, but I spent more time with you than anybody else. And I had his money in my pocket. And he got really nasty with me. And I reached for my pocket and I was going to tell him, you're the weakest link, get out of here. And I says, no. I says, for the hassle that you gave me, you ain't getting your money back. And before the day was out, he burnt the lathe up.
Oh.
So, I mean, you end up, sometimes you have a bad one, but 9 times out of 10, everybody just has a good time with you. Sometimes you had people that thought that they knew more than what they did. I was out at Craft Supplies and I was teaching out there, and I had a couple guys that were older than me at the time. And What are we going to do? I says, we're going to learn how to turn some beads and coves. Well, I know how to do them. I said, do you? Yeah. I says, well, let's do a few. So we had the whole class do beads and coves for half a day, and it was very enlightening when the guy come up to me and says, thank you. He says, I didn't know how to turn a bead or a cove. And when you get that, how can you not feel good about it? You know, those were always some of the good stuff.
Well, I know a lot of people always comment about whether or not they've seen your shop, and of course, one of the iconic things in your shop is when you look at the wall of tools, and all of the tools, with the exception of the couple of the detailed stuff, the beading stuff, they all have the same handle. And if you guys you resort back to the video of him turning the eggs or the picture at the end of it, in the background of Dick standing at his lathe, look at the tools against the back wall and notice all the handles are highly figured bird's eye maple. They're all the same shape, the same size, and it's always just amused me that you get a new tool and the first thing you do is knock the handle off and turn one of your own.
Well, there's a reason for that. I was told one time, if you can't turn, you should at least have decent looking tools.
Oh, jeez. Well,
No.
that's one thing I've always admired about you as well, is if you didn't have a tool to do the job you needed, you'd make one.
Yes. Well, that was my profession. I was a tool and die maker.
We used to go watch Dick. There was a lumber yard in Sycamore, Illinois, I believe.
Yep.
And I
Hardwood Connection.
I had been to shows where Dick was there. I don't think he knew me really at the time. So I would sit in the far back of the room and just watch to see what I could learn, obviously. And I'd watch this demonstration on a huge television, which at that time, was not all that big, but a big television. And you could see his hands and you could see the piece that he was making. Well, the piece that he was making on that television was probably 2 feet wide, but the piece that he was making in reality was something like 3 inches. And the tools that he was using, it turned out, were dental tools. It was so amazing to me when he would pass around the tool after he was finished giving the demonstration. Of course, that's captive rings with a dental tool and amazing tool control. It was just such a vision. As you watched him, it motivated you to try to learn more and more about the art of pen turning or turning. Dick has got, well, young Dick, I understand being older, but the tool control that he had and the ability that he could take things that were never made to be tools, screwdrivers that were reground,
Allen wrenches
for
getting insides. Yeah.
It's just an amazing amount of talent in addition to reaction. I've got a problem. How am I going to solve it? Okay, fine. I'll sit down and solve it. It was inspiring to me as a younger turner.
I mean, and it's still inspiring when you think about the contributions that you've given to the turning community. How long did it take after you drew the blueprints to the long jaws that you sent off to Vic Mark to have made?
Yes.
And it wasn't long after that every chuck maker in the country now makes their version of jaws that you designed the first ones of, that because out of necessity. So
I was making desk clocks, and the hole for the movement was always 1 3/8 inches. But I was taking a piece of burl and cutting down into the burl and then drilling my hole for the clock, so that I had to reach down in there and I would make a jam chuck to hold it so I could turn it around to finish the shape. Well, every piece of wood was a little different. This was when I was doing the art shows. So sometimes I had to put a piece of tape on it to make it tight enough to hold it, blah, blah. So I knew Vic Mark. I had met him before, and I called him up and I asked him if I drew him a picture or a plan, if he would make me a set of jaws. So they were, I think it was 2.5 inches long or 2 inches long and 1 3/8 in mean diameter. So that when I did that, all I had to do was turn that around, open my chuck, and I had a grip on it, and I could do whatever I want. He made 2 sets, sent one to me, and one went to Craft Supply. And whenever anybody saw me, where'd you get those? Well, Craft Supply. Well, pretty soon, like John says, they were all over the place.
Everybody's got a version now. Thank you. Because I use mine all the time, so thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I have done a few of those innovative things.
Well, you're never done thinking. The spindle lathe cover idea, and it just kills me every time we sit and brainstorm. You'll come up with a solution or something.
Well, thank you.
Of course, I don't know how much sleep you get, but tell me you wake up in the middle of the night. Oh yeah.
I go downstairs and make that.
Yeah.
The next day, though.
Well,
the next day.
I got to his house this morning, and I come in, and he said, "I'm down here in the shop." So, would you just have to get a few minutes of turning in before you were gone all day? Just make sure I didn't interrupt your turning time. Got to make some shavings before you leave.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case, but
No.
nope. I'm always impressed. I love to come over and see the shop and see what you're working on and making, because it's always something unique and different. So.
And he's making me things that I have to make now again, which is good.
Yeah. Well, I like to make things that I know I couldn't pull off. So if I can cast something and give it to you and say, would this work in that application? I'm not gonna get the finished product. So that's something that I need for you to show me how to do.
Would you
So.
want to show your
I forgot to show this. There are a couple eggs that I think
Oh,
We're-
biggie.
were very good that I'm very proud of. This one is my wife's. I
Let's see
don't
if we
know
can-
if you
Let's see
can
if we
get
can
close
find
enough.
a camera here. No, that's definitely
That'll work.
not what we had hoped
Yeah,
for.
That'll work.
hold it right there.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see the rabbit.
Yeah. and
There
the-
you go.
on
Look,
that
turn
one,
a hair more. The glare's in it, but yeah, you can see the.
Yep. Yep.
I turned that egg and my wife grabbed it and she says, "How'd you get the rabbit in that?"
Yeah, you can see it pretty well when it came up on that.
Yeah. See
And
that?
another one that I really enjoy, John made, and it has a dried dandelion seed in it. He threw me the blankets to see what you can do with it.
Man, you pulled it off.
So I got me an egg. One of my highlights. I really enjoy it. Again, back to those eggs. We have so many, and not just me, but all my daughter and other people. They have them also. But I've had some people like in Australia that when they knew I was coming, they got a bunch of them. In fact, the last time I was there, I had so many that I went to my buddy's lathe and I blanked them out. I didn't know dryness and all or that, but I blanked them out roughly 2 inches in diameter and 3 inches long. And I had a box that weighed 75 pounds, which was the most that UPS would send. So I went in and the guy says, "What do you got in it?" I says, "Wood." "Oh, I can't send wood."
Yeah.
I says, "Really?" I said, "What do you do about stuff that's handmade in that?" "Well, that's craft wood." I says, "Well, that's what this is." It's craft. Okay. So it cost me 150 Australian, which was $75 at that time. And when I got home, the box was sitting on my porch, And that was the year I turned 101 eggs for Easter. So I do enjoy a lot of the woods that I had. Uh, it was an experience turning some of them. I had no idea what it was like. A fellow by the name of Kelly Dunn lives in Hawaii. He's a turner. And he, over the years, he sent me a lot of woods that I had never heard of that were indigenous to Hawaii. So it's always been kind of a good time. I was in Atlanta, and the guy I was staying with had about a 5-inch diameter and about 4 or 5 inches long piece of wood. And I said, "What is that?" And he says, "Hedge." I says, "Hedge? Privet hedge." He says, "You got privet hedge that big?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "I want the piece." So I took it. So I've even got privet head eggs. Yep, it's been fun.
Well, it's 7:54. If you all have any additional questions, now would be the time. We'll take another few minutes so that we give you a chance to get your last hurrah. Of course, I really want to thank Dick. It's always a pleasure having him up here, and I know it's not the easiest thing in the world for him. So we appreciate him taking time and bringing a little history to us and showing us how to do some things that are not all that simple to do. Once you look at an egg, you'll think, boy, that's not hard. Now put it on the lathe and duplicate it.
Well,
We'll see how you feel about it then.
like I told him, I said it's such an inspiring idea to think about. Every year, make an egg of a different wood species for your family. And his advice was, be careful what you start.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you very, very much for having me. I've enjoyed my time here, and I appreciate that you had me. Thank you.
Always fun, Dick. We appreciate it. So with that, it looks like there are no more questions. Lots of people saying thank you, and we appreciate your comments. But it's time for us to go have a pizza. So, thanks a lot for watching. We'll see if I can figure out how to turn this off. If not, we'll be on for the rest of the night.
Good night.